Kia ora koutou and welcome to Frogs on Friday, where we go through what's new within unemployment and the job market. Today we're going to go through, we've been talking about unemployment rates and looking at whether or not that pressure on the labour market is going to lead to an increase in salaries and wages. So we've been talking about that a lot, especially in terms of whether it can keep up pace with inflation. And the numbers finally came out yesterday, so definitely going to take you through what that means for you. As always, we'll go through some of our hot jobs, as well as today I'm joined by Angela Yee, who, in case you missed our talent webinar last week, is going to go through a few extra tips looking at how to stand out within a virtual interview, which is really is the norm for interviews at the moment. And of course, we'll have a look at what the polls said last week. Okay, so let's start with Mahi Media. Okay, so the unemployment rate came out yesterday, as I said, and it took everyone by surprise, really, by rising slightly to 3.3%. Now, this was only an increase of 0.1% from 3.2%, so we're still experiencing an extremely tight labour market, and we think that this increase is largely due to weak employment growth, and as we start to see and feel a flattening out of jobs. So with new jobs coming on, definitely compared with the frenzy of the first half of the year, that's evening out a little bit now. In positive news, there were improvements for multi-employment, with the unemployment rate dropping from 7.8% to 5.5%. And also of note, the number of people who were away from work for a full week due to sickness or injury nearly doubled, up to 55,000. So this gives an indicator of the pressures that businesses are under, who are likely to be operating with reduced staff already, even before they deal with absenteeism due to COVID and just the general cold and flu season. Okay, so let's move over. So we've got the graph there. Oh, sorry, if we move to the next one, looking at wage inflation. So the labour cost index increased from 3.4%, increased to 3.4% from 3% in the March quarter. So that's great news that it's moving in the right direction, but I'd say most would say that it's not quite fast enough to ease the pain of rising living costs. It was good to see, though, that 2/3 of roles saw an increase in salary or wages in the first half of this year. And I think that steep, if we go to the next graph there it is. The steep upturn that you see in the LCI, so in this last quarter here, represents a rate of wage growth that we haven't seen for the last decade. So really positive news there. But if you temper that with, it's also the same is true for CPI or the consumer price index or inflation. And it's that gap between the two there, the yellow line and the green, that represents that gap between wage growth and living costs that really is the problem. I guess in looking at this, there is a silver lining, though. The LCI, getting a bit technical here, but the LCI doesn't capture changes to salary due to receiving promotions or changing roles. So the quarterly employment survey, or QES, does adjust for those measures, as well as taking into account things like increases from collective employment agreements, which we've seen across healthcare, as well as minimum wage increases. So the QES could be argued that gives a more realistic view, and it is definitely a more positive story. So this showed an increase in got to get this right, average ordinary time hourly earnings of 6.4%. So not quite matching that 7.3% of inflation, but definitely getting closer. And again, I think we'll see further movements and increases to those wages throughout the second half of the year. So watch this space. All right, that's probably enough stats for a Friday for everyone. So let's move on and have a look at some of the jobs that we've got on offer at the moment. Okay, so first up, a big chunky role here, so a billing analyst position. This is based in the Auckland CBD and offering a competitive salary. As I said, now's the time to really make those demands for a competitive salary and to look at those increases. So this one, you'll be reporting straight into a revenue manager and working across businesses and customers and suppliers across New Zealand and Australia. For this one, if you're interested in this role, if you could contact Simi here in our Auckland office. Next up, a Wellington role. So looking for another permanent position, looking for a communications advisor. Some interesting, it's obviously a salary band there, some exact numbers on the salary range, but looking between that 65K to just over 80,000. This one's looking at content writing, so a big part of that role, as well as coordinating communications, both internally and externally. Okay, for that one, if you're interested, get in touch with Sophia from our team in Wellington. And last up is a temporary position, so looking between $25 to $26 per hour, plus of course your holiday pay and KiwiSaver, etc. This one is based in Mount Wellington. It's working with one of our major clients within the healthcare and medical devices and technology space. So you don't necessarily need to have experience within distribution or warehousing for this role. What they look for first and foremost is really around attitude. So looking for someone who is going to show that attention to detail. The work that you're doing is really important, with it being involved in things like surgical kits, for example. So want to make sure that you're doing it right and working really efficiently, and just have a great attitude to get the job done. For this one, you can contact me or Shavneil as well within the Auckland team. Okay, and I think we have a video showcasing one of our roles, so let's play that now.
Kia ora. I am working with a much loved retail pet brand who are looking for an inventory admin / sales coordinator to join their team on a temporary basis. They're looking for someone to start either as soon as possible or from the 15th of August, and it's just to help them out with a bit of a backlog in terms of customer service orders that haven't been able to be fulfilled for different reasons. So it might be that they've not got the stock in store, it might be that the stock that they were going to send out is faulty. Your job is basically to look through an Excel sheet and use your Excel skills. So mainly VLOOKUPs, pivot tables, to be able to have a look at where orders haven't been able to be fulfilled and why, and just see if you can come up with a bit of a solution. In terms of experience, they really do need you to have really strong Excel skills. So it's really important that you have used pivot tables and VLOOKUPs previously. And then just a strong customer service approach, as you will be speaking to customers over the phone or via email. In terms of the role, it is a 2-month position. They're looking for someone from the 15th of August, and the salary that they're looking at is around about $25 to $27 an hour, plus your 8% holiday pay. If you are interested, then please do get in touch as soon as possible, as they'd love to meet with candidates early next week, and my details will be shown below.
Okay, so Angela, I'm sure a lot of your clients have been looking at virtual interviews over the past, really the past 2.5 years or so, and so it's become more of the norm. So you've got some great tips for us to how to impress in a virtual interview.
Thanks, Shannon. Yes, that's right. It is no doubt in this current pandemic norms that face-to-face interview has become harder and harder as our workforce has moved our offices to a home working environment. So as you said, video interviews have become essential for both employers and job seekers using technology platforms like Microsoft Teams, Skype and Zoom to conduct preliminary interviews. This is great as no one is missing out, but what is the secret of acing an interview without the physical interaction that we are so accustomed to pre-COVID? So here today, I want to share my top 6 tips to help you succeed in your next virtual interview. Tip number 1, technology and tests. First and foremost, it is very essential that you test your setup before your interview. Having a very strong and stable internet connection is a must. So check your Wi-Fi, setting a good range where you wish to conduct your interview. Test trial. If this is your first time joining a group interview or Microsoft Teams meeting, I recommend joining the meeting a few minutes early. This ensures that you get into the meeting with no problems and set you up for a nice winning experience, and it helps calms your nerve. Also, make sure that you have the right platforms downloaded onto your computer or laptop and familiarize yourself with the systems. For backup, I recommend that you download the platform also on your phone. Tip number 2, treat video interviews like regular face-to-face interview. Video interview are no less formal than a face-to-face interview, so do prepare them as if you are turning up face-to-face interview. Now, this includes researching the company, get online, check their social media presence, research their company website, LinkedIn profiles well before, and also have a good understanding on what the role is required. This will make you appear as an attractive candidate for the advertised position. So be sure to ask your recruiter for clues on this, as we will be there to help you out. On the day, lay out your prepared notes, your CV, job description, questions to ask so that you have prompts to refer to. And remember, this is no surprise. Practice makes perfect. And tip number 3, this is my favorite one. Be yourself. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but be your natural self. Don't let technology get in the way of letting your personality shine through. Show your interviewer that you have a great interpersonal skills that they're looking for in the role, and why they should pick you over other candidates. Don't sell yourself short. Tip number 4, find the best environment for a stress-free interview. Don't lose sight of the formality of this meeting. Even though the video interview takes place at your home with your own webcam, they are still interviews. Find a quiet and uninterrupted location with neutral video background that has good lighting. Switch your phone off, block out any outdoor noises, lock your door if you need be. I know your adorable kids and pets can be very cute at times, but for this purpose, please have another person look after them or keep them away from your meeting. And number 5, dress for success. This is the way that you dress for an interview really tells the potential employers a lot about you. So remember, first impression lasts. So dress to impress as you would normally do face-to-face interview. This not only helps you psychologically feel ready, but also it allows you to be confident and get your head start in the interview. I would recommend dress in solid colors as they are best on screen. Avoid patterns, distracting jewelries and tires. The preference is to stick to soft and simple color palettes. And number 6, last but not least, is to have a backup plan. The big day is almost here and you're almost ready to go. However, it's a good idea to have a backup plan if your technology suffers from any malfunction, and we know this will always happen unpredictably, unfortunately. But prepared in advance, have the interviewer's phone number to call should you run into any difficulty or have connection problems. Do apologise and make sure that you proactively offer solutions. Either give them a call and continue the interview by telephone or reschedule. So Shannon, those are my top 6 tips. I hope these have been beneficial, and I wish candidates out there in the job market all the success in the next virtual meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ange. I just noticed I'm breaking one of your rules there with very patterned and bold, but but maybe I'm showing my personality, so I get a tick on that one.
You sure do.
Awesome. Okay, so let's go through to look at the polls. What are people saying? Okay, so we've been talking on and on about pay increases. So wanted to see how that stacked up against CPI and inflation. So has your employer offered you a pay increase in the last 12 months? So disappointingly, 57% said no. So really got to put that pressure on, and hopefully things will change in the near future for those ones. But we had 14% said yes, and over that 7%. So either close to or above the inflation rates, and 29% said yes, but under 7%. So yeah, well, good to see, and still some more work to go there. Okay, so what are we looking at this week? All right, so on from our theme of looking at interviewing. When interviewing for a new role, do you prefer face-to-face, virtual, or remote video, or doesn't matter either way, as long as you get the interview? So we'll see what is said next week. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining us again, and we'll be back next week in a new office upstairs on Friday at 12:30. See you then.